Today we are here to celebrate a generous gift. Lawson State Community College welcomes gifts that strengthen its archival collection and supports its teaching and research missions. Through Ms. Arlene Roeblin's generosity, one of the oldest editions of rare books will have a permanent home at Lawson State Community College Library. Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, this edition was published in 1880, has been generously donated to Lawson State Community College Library by Ms. Arlene Roebling in memory of her grandparents, Julius and Patsy Black. We must explain to you how this rare book traveled far and wide to end up at Lawson State. In October 2022, I was contacted by Ms. Arlene Roebling about a rare book that she wanted to donate to Lawson State Community College Library. Ms. Rockland currently resides in Rome, Italy, and asked me if we could schedule a Zoom meeting to discuss the book and the donation. Now, this occurred on a Monday morning, and you know what that's like. But I quickly agreed to Ms. Rockland's request, and we had a Zoom meeting about 15 minutes later. During the Zoom meeting, Ms. Rockland explained to me that she had a connection to Birmingham, Alabama, and that she was the granddaughter of Julius and Patsy Black. I did not know who they were at the time. If those names sound familiar, after a little research, I found out that Julius Black, Ms. Rockland's granddaughter, was the grandson of the original Julius Black, who founded and owned Black's department store in Birmingham. Black's was formerly J. Black & Son and was a popular department store chain founded in 1885 in downtown Birmingham. Black's motto at the time was, "Black's treat you fair and square." Black's department store was located in the former Bencourt building at 3rd Avenue and 20th Street in downtown Birmingham. The store closed its doors permanently in 1988. Ms. Rockland went on to say that her mother was born and raised in Birmingham, and her grandparents contributed financially to some HBCUs in the Birmingham area. She told me because of her young age, she could not recall all of the details and names, but she said that her grandparents were always invited to and did attend graduation ceremonies. Ms. Rockland's only request that this book be donated in memory of her grandparents, Julius and Patsy Black. That's a small request for such a generous gift. Now, I should explain how Ms. Rockland came across this book in the first place. It's a great story. Ms. Rockland told me that she lives in Rome, Italy, and she wandered into a used and rare bookshop on a street that she usually never walked down. The name of the bookstore was, pardon me, I hope I get this right, Libreria Cesarati al Collegio Romano. She discovered and purchased this beautifully preserved 1880 edition of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. Each page has a thin red border and is gold tipped. This book is randomly illustrated with black and white sketches, but for the front and back covers, this book is in amazing condition to be 143 years old. Ms. Rockland also discovered that the bookstore had only acquired the book 3 weeks earlier. It was donated by a woman whose father had recently passed away, and she didn't speak English and couldn't read English, so she donated her father's English language books. A few weeks later, Ms. Rockland shipped the book to me, and we've spoken periodically since then. All this occurred in October and November of 2022. Now, if you would, welcome Mr. Wilson. He's going to come up and give you a little bit of history about Uncle Tom's Cabin.
My role is particularly related to a filmic presentation that I produced, and with that, let's start rolling, then we'll be on point. All of my comments that they documented.
Abolitionist Harriet Beecher Stowe, the mother of 6 children, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. She witnessed slavery firsthand while visiting the slave state of Kentucky in 1838. During the visit, she saw a slave auction in which enslaved people were purchased and sold Families were torn apart, and children were separated from their mothers.
Keep this thing going.
Around the age of 40, she shared with a friend that the peril and shame of slavery in America were worse than Roman slavery. She began writing Uncle Tom's Cabin, or Life Among the Lowly, initially published in 2 volumes. The book was a literary novel of protest. Within a year, 300,000 copies had been sold. No other literature helped lay the groundwork for the American Civil War like Uncle Tom's Cabin. Translated into many languages, the book became a sensation and the world's bestseller, second only to the Bible. Frederick Douglass viewed Uncle Tom's Cabin as more than a novel. He called it a flash to light 1,000,000 fires in front of the embattled hosts of slavery. Southern papers, such as Mobile's Alabama Planters newspaper, denounced and banned the book. A book dealer in Mobile was run out of town for selling the novel, and a free African American in Maryland was sentenced to 10 years in prison for possessing and reading Uncle Tom's Cabin. Paul Laurence Dunbar was inspired by Harriet Beecher Stowe and praised her in one of his poetic sonnets. Dunbar expressed his gratitude for the risks she took to bring justice to all African American people. The years between 1933 and 1967 produced a complex moment in the cultural reception of the novel. There were demands for new incarnations of the story and protests against the book and the performances it inspired. A poll of more than 3,000 libraries in 1952 resulted in a new centennial edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin. African American writer and intellectual Langston Hughes created an introduction, selected and prepared captions for the illustrations of the 1952 Centennial Edition. Lawson State Community College Library received a rare 1880 edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin. This acquisition will promote an interest in creating a systematic plan to collect and preserve books written about and by African Americans. Arlene Rocklin, Esquire, living in the ancient city of Rome, Italy, donated the book. Arlene was walking down a street off the beaten path in Rome, known as the Largo Argentina. The street is also where the famous Roman Parthenon is located. Arlene observed a quaint bookstore and saw a book in the display window written in English. She wandered inside, desiring to see more. The owner greeted her.
Può cominciare dalle vetrine e poi...
Sì, abbiamo fatto. Grazie.
Sa come?
Mica sopra. Sì, grazie.
Prego.
She found only 2 shelves where the books written in English were kept. Arlene sat down at the top of the short staircase and exhaled.
Here are the English books where I found Uncle Tom's Cabin. There's only 2 shelves.
Arlene's observation of this rare 1880 edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin stirred memories of her civic-minded grandparents, who shared stories of donating to Winona State Junior College, known today as Lawson State Community College, and the pride they experienced attending the college graduation each year.
And it says, don't touch.
Faccia pure una panoramica qua su quelli d'antiquariato.
Arlene initially did not buy the book because she wanted to research the name Elsa Bresca, the city of Alexandria, and the year 1924, handwritten on the book's first page. The last name is Italian and the name of a town in northern Italy. Upon returning to the bookstore a few days later, thankfully the book was still there. Arlene tried to learn the identity of the person who donated the novel and other books to the bookstore in an attempt to learn about its history. However, the bookstore owner desired to respect the donor's privacy. Interestingly, the donor was a woman whose father had passed away, and she wanted to donate all of his books. The bookstore owner came into possession of Uncle Tom's Cabin about 3 weeks before Arlene purchased the novel. In October of 2022, Arlene donated the 1880 edition of Uncle Tom's Cabin in memory of her grandparents, who shared their memories of Lawson State Community College. At that moment, Arlene transformed an observation into an obligation. She recognized the threads of interpersonal connections, new and old, as they weave in and out of our lives. And if we're lucky, we recognize it when it happens. Indeed, Lawson State Community College Library is the fitting place where Uncle Tom's Cabin should be displayed for all to see.
Good morning again, everyone. To our visitors, thank you so much for being here. Was this just not a phenomenal presentation? Lawson State Community College will forever be indebted to Ms. Rockland for this magnificent gift that will last on for years and years and years. I hope that we all really take in the magnitude of what this means, and that someone in Italy thought enough about Lawson State Community College to make such a valuable presentation to us. So again, we will forever be indebted to her. We will stay in touch with her because through this donation, she will always be a part of Lawson State Community College. For the ones of you who did not raise your hand when Mr. Wilson asked, had you read this book, I would certainly encourage us to do so. It is certainly a life-changing read. So I remember years ago we were at that point forced to read it because it was a part of required reading in our English and literature classes. But as I have grown, this is something that you would never have to force me to read it now. So please take that opportunity to gain the knowledge that is included in this book. I just want to say again, thank you all so much for being here, and to Ms. Rockland, thank you for your investment in Lawson State Community College. You will get that message over and over and over again. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, and Ms. Julie, for all you have done to pull this together. This is truly extraordinary. Thank you all for being here with us today. I think we're going to have a few pictures, so I'll take the rest of my notes from Ms. Kennedy. Thank you so much.